শুরু হয়েছে?
Video number. Video. Already.
Still only one.
Hmm?
Still only one participant.
11.
Hello, Prof. Osamu and Prof. Masato. How are you?
Hello, Professor Osamu.
I just sent you the link of
Hey,
live
Prof. Masato. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
live. I have just sent you live stream. I just sent you the link of
Hey,
live.
Prof. Masato. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
I have just sent you live stream.
Hello, Bangala. Am I audible?
Yes, Savi. Very well.
Yeah, yeah. Good evening, Savitri, Dr. Das. Yeah. Just now I shared the YouTube live link. That is for the most of the people. You can share now immediately because YouTube live stream is on now. I'm just waiting to other guests to enter so that we can start the program.
That's fine.
Dr. Mongala, you have got it, no? The link? WhatsApp.
I can't see it, sir.
I have sent you by WhatsApp. Just check it.
All right, okay.
Hello, Barbara. How are you? This is Adrianta.
Oh, hello, sir. Oh, good evening.
It's 5:30 in the morning here.
Ah,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
Yes.
I am
Hello,
not
Rob.
Jeff.
It's 5:30, Rob. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Hello.
I've got one more hour. It's 6:30 in my part of the United States.
Oh. So bad then.
Robert Ham. Hello,
Hello,
Rob.
Prof. Cheng.
Hello, Rob. Hello, Rob. You are here. Rob
Yes,
Carroll.
I am. Good morning, Kusal. Good evening.
And he's wearing a tie.
Rob Carroll, you are here.
Yes, I am. Good
Oh,
morning.
okay.
Good
Okay.
afternoon, Kusal.
Very good morning. Very good morning. Kushal speaking. Kushal Das.
Hello, Sir Smita. How are you, Sir Smita?
Yes.
Professor, hello, Professor Kushal Das. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hearing, but your this is slightly breaking. Yeah. Boy, just check your network.
Yes. Okay. What's the
I think Rida, you have joined. Rida, hello,
Yes.
Rida.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Oh, you're welcome here, Rida. It's a great honor that you are here. And your mom has joined? Not
Good,
yet.
all on the way. Let me just call
Okay,
her.
just to alert, and also Hiba.
Yeah.
Internet now we can hear. Professor Das, can you hear me now?
Yes, you are audible now. You are clear. You are clear.
Okay, good evening and assalamu alaikum to all.
Thank you very much. Same to you.
Okay.
Hello, Kusal.
Amarda, Professor Amar K. Chandra, President of Physiological Society of India. Amarda.
Hi.
Yeah. Good evening. Very good evening. Live stream হচ্ছে না?
Hello, Professor Nurjahan.
Professor Amor.
Hello.
How are you, Amor?
Hello, I am fine. Hello. I am fine.
Thank you. দেখা হলো আপনার সাথে।
Hello, Dr. Faisal. How are you? Adrianta here.
Yeah. Fine. We met in Bangkok.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to Professor Robert Bell.
Good afternoon, Professor Aslam. Good afternoon.
উঠে যাচ্ছে একবার করে উড়ে যাচ্ছে।
I think
Hello, Shomishta.
Shomishta is there?
Shomishta.
Yes. Yeah, Professor Mangala. Yeah, I think that Dr. Rida has joined from Arif Siddiqui family, and I think that some Robert Carroll has joined, and some guests have also joined. Barbara also, I think Goodman also I'm seeing, and I think the Savitri is also there. Aslam Sir, president is also the former president is also here, and let us see that some other to join. So it is now actually 5 minutes 16:04. It is showing that we are 4 minutes behind the schedule, so we will wait for another 1 to 2 minutes, and we should start.
How is Dr. Das doing?
Yeah, Sir, Dr. Das is here only. It's a great honor that you are here. It's a great honor.
Are we living in rhythm or time?
Oh, I do not know where I'm living, but it at the moment, yeah, it is just passing.
No.
Dr. Devi, how are you, Dr. Devi?
I am fine, thank you.
Okay, good to see you from Jakarta.
Thank you. I'm sorry I cannot turn on my camera because my internet connection is very poor.
It's okay.
Shall we start now? No. Let me see that. Professor Semnian also joined. Okay.
Can we start now?
It is a pleasure
I think
to meet all of you.
I just wait for Rida. Rida, you are here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just trying to get my mom on. She's here, but her video isn't working, so we're just trying to fix that.
Okay, can she join to audio also? That will
Yes,
be
yes,
also
she's here on audio.
You just tell Bhabi to join. Okay, just tell Madam Siddiqui, Professor Siddiqui.
Okay, she's here.
Okay, fine. So good evening, Bhabi ji. Good evening, Professor Arif Siddiqui, Madam Arif Siddiqui. Good evening, ma'am. Madam Siddiqui, we are very much honored of your presence. Madam hello.
Yeah, I am here. I am
Okay.
here.
Madam,
good afternoon to all SAP family.
Thank you.
Very nice to hear you all.
Yeah.
And thank you to invite us.
No. It's a great honor. When Rida told me that I felt that like we have South Asian Association of Physiologists found the spouse of the founder. It's a great honor for all of us. So we are waiting for you only actually, and I think that most of the guests are already joined. I think Mangala, Dr. Mangala.
Yes, sir.
Now I think that you take the button from my hand. Now you should do all. You are today's master of ceremony and everything. Now you start your program, and I'm very happy Professor H.R. Ahmed sir also joined in the right time. Please, Mangala, you go ahead, Mangala.
You all please mute.
Yes, Professor Mangala, please start. Professor Mangala.
Mangala, you are muted. Please unmute your mic.
You unmute.
Right. Thank
you. Start.
As we have participants from different parts of the world, let me greet all of you by saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Dear Madam, Shaheen Arif and other members of the family, senior physiologists, colleagues and friends, I warmly welcome all of you to this program organized by the South Asian Association of Physiologists under the presidency of Professor Kusal Das. I am Mangala Gunatilaka, the Secretary General of South Asian Association of Physiologists. We are gathered here in the online platform to commemorate the founder of SAP after his first death anniversary. Late Professor Arif Siddiqui, as an academic, played diverse roles during his career as an educator, researcher, leader, administrator, a creator, mentor, and a visionary. South Asian Association of Physiologists, established in 2008, is the brainchild of late Professor Arif Siddiqui. During his time, he did every effort by himself and by guiding others to achieve, if not to initiate, achieving the set objectives of SAP. He was instrumental in organizing sponsorship through International Union of Physiological Societies to conduct the first education workshop under the SAP platform with the participation of many physiology educators from different parts of the world. As the Secretary General in 2012, he inaugurated the education workshop in Colombo. SAP Education Workshop provided an opportunity to discuss matters related to SAP with his counterpart, Professor Amar Kumar Chandra from India, who was appointed as the Secretary General from 2016 to 2018. SAP Education Workshop also provided an opportunity in 2012 to meet and discuss with the future SAP President and a Secretary General. As a junior physiologist, I met late Professor Arif Siddiqui, this Asian physiology giant, for the first time in 2001 at the IUPS International Union of Physiological Societies teaching workshop held in 2001 in New Zealand. Thereafter, we met frequently to share our matters pertaining to physiology teaching at physiology workshops held in Taiwan in 2015, Bristol, UK in 2013, Kobe, Japan in March 2019. Late Professor Arif Siddiqui guided physiologists from the Asian part of the world as the Secretary General for 3 terms. He was the President of SAP from 2018 to May 2020. With these introductory remarks, I would like to move on to the next agenda item in the program. It is the unveiling of photograph and observing silence for 2 minutes, that is to pay tribute to this great physiology legend. On this online platform, it is not possible to invite Madam Arif Siddiqui to unveil the photo of late Professor Arif. On behalf of his family, SAP family, and other physiologists, please grant me permission to unveil the photograph of our beloved founder. Thank you. So, shall we observe 2 minutes silence to pay tribute to our great leader? Thank you. Let me take the next agenda item. I would like to invite Professor Arif Siddiqui's mentor, Professor H.R. Ahmed, to talk about colleague and about the mentee. Thank you. Professor Ahmed, over to you.
Professor H.R. Ahmed, sir, Professor H.R. Ahmed, sir. Please say a few words about Professor Arif Siddiqui. Is there H.R. Ahmed? Professor H.R. Ahmed, sir.
Unmute. Now, can you hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you. Sir, please go ahead.
Now we are. I think it is very kind and thoughtful of SAP members to have thought of Dr. Arif Siddiqui in this way. I think what a legacy he has left, which has a gravity to pull itself. And you are not praising Arif Siddiqui, you are praising his legacy. And how many of us really work for the legacy? That is a question in life to be pondered. And I had a great discussion all the time with Arif Siddiqui and me, right from the inception of Pakistan Physiological Society in 87. And then over the years, he was a little bit critical, and we had a discussion to how to enliven it. So actually, institutions and faculty, you can say institution plus faculty or institution times faculty. So what would be the product if it is plus, and what would be the product if it is times? And the product is that the activity of institution and faculty is reflected in a professional society and its journal. Otherwise, if these two items are not there, then we don't know what institution and faculty is doing. So professional societies and journals are the mirrors of institution and faculty. And second point is that we have institution and faculty based on research-based education. And somewhere we don't have a research-based education. So how the two would interact? That's why Arif Siddiqui discussed with me, and he said, maybe we should make it regional, from national to regional and then international. So he was thinking in 3 steps: national, regional, international. Therefore, PPS, SAP, IUPS. That is the ladder he was thinking. He was a broad-based thinker, and he had a vision like a Shaheen with vision and goal. These two qualities of Shaheen is very, very positive. The other, we can park it. But so Arif Siddiqui has left here with us a nice boat in which we are, and he's behind the boat, and he's guiding the boat to move forward. And I think the message is that how institution and faculty could interact, integrate to express in professional society's activity, and finally the journals. And I think he has beautifully given us this gift of the SAP and SAP being connected to IPS. Now it is up to the young faculty to catch up the flight. And I think from the last SAP meeting from Delhi, I observed that the young peoples are catching up the flight, and it should be further young people should come in leadership, young people. And I think one thing was very particular about Arif Siddiqui was that he was a man of integrity. So what he said, he did it. And I think it is a very, very difficult, and he kept himself to the goal to achieve it. He, no matter how many punches he would get, but he will go to the goal. And I think it is if we are now sitting in his boat, together SAP boat, and we are now sailing along the silvery moon of under his shadow and his spirit. And what a beautiful gift he has given to us. I think in gratitude, we all stand and celebrate his contribution to the nation, region, and the world. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts about your nation and the colleagues, right?
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Mangala, your voice needs to be little increased.
All right, okay. So shall we make the introduction, sir, in the program?
Yes.
Now
It's a great honor that Professor H.R. Ahmed sir given the first inaugural his visions and thought of himself as he is a long time colleague of Professor Arif Siddiqui plus mentor of Professor Arif Siddiqui. Sir, we are greatly honored of listening your few humble words. Thank you, sir.
next item in the program is to give an opportunity to late Professor Arif, his family, to speak few words during this program. So over to you, Madam Shahina Siddiqui. Madam Shahina.
Madam Shahina.
Thank you very much, Mangala. Good afternoon to all SAP family. My dear friends, it took me more than a year to gather the courage to speak with all of you. I really wanted to talk to you, but I was feeling that I have no courage after him. I know you are all familiar with Arif's lifelong passion and honesty for his work. Throughout our 42 years of marriage, he was like a crazy physiologist, and I tried my best to support him in his work. Many years ago, when he was at Aga Khan University, I recall that he was working on hosting the first physiology conference at the university and was busy day and night. In its preparation, one day, I went to him and said, I am Shaheen, your wife. Do you remember me? Professor Siddiqui? It's been over 3 months since we went out together. He looked at me and smiled, and he said, oh, you're right. Okay, let's go out to get bread. It's actually a funny thing, but it will always happen in my house. And then he got busy with his work again. And after that, we didn't go to buy anything. This was routine for decades. I saw always this routine in my house, and I appreciate that. But sometimes, it makes you like you can think that if my husband would not be a physiologist, he could be a very more better husband. So, but I appreciate him and I regard him that he was working so hard. I was very down to earth and simple man. He did not care much for material things like present and so on, except when he met his physiology colleagues at the conference and would ask me to buy presents to gift them. It was the only time I would be given very generous budget to buy whatever I like, and as someone who likes to shop, I would also enjoy buying presents for all of you. As you all might know, we have 2 daughters. Alhamdulillah, we have 2 daughters, but sometime I felt like Sev was our 3rd child. Because when he started working for Sev, he was working like the youngest child. You serve better and you have to pay attention, more attention for the youngest one. So he was doing the same thing. He worked day and night to develop SAP. Into what it is today, and often ask me to pray for it, that SAP should develop. You are all so dear to me and are like an extension of our family. I have wonderful memories. I have wonderful memories of meeting all of you in different countries. I really wish to meet you all again. On behalf of my daughter, on behalf of my daughters and myself, I want to convey that we are always here to support you and work with you to further the vision Arif had for SAP. Please remember him in your prayers. Thank you very much. Thank you to all. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Madam Shahina Arif.
Thank you very much, madam. Thank you very much for your precious word and your words that we are all the extended family of Arif Siddiqui. That touches our heart. And we will be always there to be blessed by late Arif Siddiqui, and you, madam, be with us along with all of the physiologists of the South Asian associations. Thank you very much. We are honored of your presence.
Thanks.
Thank you, Madam. Right. I would like to invite Professor Robert Carroll, who is the chair of the Education Commission of the International Union of Physiological Societies, to voice about Professor Arif Siddiqui and his experience with the Professor Arif Siddiqui.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to see the faces and names of so many of my friends. And this is a sad occasion, but yet a grateful one as we remember the impact of our friend Arif on our lives. When we talk about the role of a friend, it's often a friend you think about someone you do things with. But when you think more deeply, a friend is someone who pushes you to achieve more than you would have otherwise. A friend is someone who takes you outside of your educational comfort zone. So I would like to share some of the stories of my memories with Arif and how I have benefited from his friendship over the years. Not surprisingly, a lot of these involve the International Union of Physiological Sciences. Arif and I first met at an IUPS teaching workshop, which is in Repino, Russia, which is in this part of the world. The workshop followed the main Congress, which was in St. Petersburg, and it was a residential workshop. We lived in a dormitory type setting in the building, and that's hosted the workshops as well as the lectures. One of the rooms of that complex was set aside as a bar. So because this meeting was in June in Russia, it was the time of the white nights. The sun did not set until about 2 or 3 in the morning, and it rose again by about 5 the next morning. That combined with the fact that we had traveled from all over the world meant there were no diurnal rhythms. There was no day-night cycle available for any of us. So the conversations would extend into what would be odd hours in a regular zone. As we were sitting in the bar area, one of my friends came inside and said, Arif is outside and he would like to talk to you. And I said, well, tell him to come in. And my friend said, well, he's not really comfortable walking inside of a bar. So I went outside, and that's when Arif and I had our first deep conversations. We spoke about educational related things. We talked about geopolitical things. And Arif was a very persuasive individual. As we look at going outside of our comfort zone, for an American going to Russia, this was already well outside of my comfort zone. The language was not familiar. The alphabet was not familiar. There were just a large number of things that were an entirely new experience for me. This was in 1997. What Arif was proposing was to have a conference focused on education within Karachi in 1999. So my first reaction was, I'm not going to do that. But we all know Arif. He was a very persuasive individual, and he convinced me that the need was there, the benefit was there, and consequently, I agreed to participate in the conference that was going to be in Karachi. Here we have pictures of that conference in Karachi. Arif on the tea break, and you can see the age by the fact that his hair had not yet turned silver. He had a fine set of hair on him. At that era, I was already losing my hair. So my hair was on its way out. When we were going through the workshop, this was a time to, again, extend well outside of my comfort zone. One of the first parts was just traveling to Pakistan. My wife, as Shaheen had said, enjoys shopping, and she instructed me that she wanted me to come home with a carpet because the carpets in that part of the region are world renowned. So Arif arranged for me to go carpet shopping, and it involved sitting down, having tea, talking with the merchants, a very different experience than what shopping is in the US. And I brought the carpet back home and showed it to my wife. And she said, "What color is that?" I said, "It's blue." It was a nice, dark, navy blue color. And she said, "I told you to get one to match the couch." I said, "It does match the couch." She said, "Go look at the couch." I went and looked at the couch. My wife had had the couch recovered 2 years earlier into a very pale blue. So I just remembered it was a blue couch and went right back to the dark blue. So paying more attention to things was one of my take-home messages from that conference. Another was the publication of my first book. Under Arif's leadership, we put together a book about that conference, Teaching Physiology in the Developing World. And at this time, the internet was just getting started. So we were bouncing files back and forth between Pakistan and the US. And the size limit on the emails was not accommodating our exchange. So I had the opportunity to learn about how administration in universities proceeds. There are apparently 2 levels of people whose job it is to tell you no. And once you get above that, you get to the person who tells you yes. So the person on the email said, you know, that file's too large. Your box will not accommodate it. I said, may I talk to your supervisor? That person's supervisor said, the file's too large. Our system will not accommodate it. I said, may I talk to your supervisor? That person said, sure. How big do you want your limit to be? So another time going outside of the comfort zone and growing and learning as you go because of that. Our friendship continued over the years, and now we're getting into the mid to late 2020s. I'm sorry, 2000s. So here's a picture of us all at Holly Mountain, California. Arif, by now, his hair had gotten that silver color to it, and my hair was mostly gone. As we looked at this is the time when I got to know Arif as a leader. When I became the editor for the journal Advances in Physiology Education, one of my focuses was to extend the participation and enhance the participation from the global community. Immediately, I turned to Arif for help and made him an associate editor of the journal. Within 2 years, about 30% of the publications were from the international community. Arif was a very effective advocate in making sure and bringing people together and in promoting and having the growth of education and science. During that time, we also started to talk more deeply about family, about religion, about friends. And it was at that time that we talked about the impact of religion on our lives. One of the groups that I'm involved with is a group that's looking to reduce the violence in Northern Ireland. For those of you not familiar with the conflicts, with the troubles in Ireland, Ireland is split very much along sectarian lines. There is the Protestant-dominated north of the country, and then the remainder of the republic is Catholic. In growing up, most of my friends were from my school. I went to a Catholic school, so I talked mostly with Catholics. My wife is a Scotch Presbyterian. So what this group called the Ulster Project does is it brings Irish teens over from the town of Derry or Londonderry. The people can't even settle on the name of the town. The Catholics call it Derry, the Protestants call it Londonderry. And those teens live in the United States for 1 month. They worship together at both the Catholic and Protestant churches. They get to meet Catholic and Protestant individuals from America, but they also get to socialize with people from the other religion in their home country. The beauty of this program is that all the participants in that program, none have ever gone and joined the sectarian violence that is over there. So this is a way in which you can use an external site to try and reduce sectarian stress. Arif was fascinated by this project because he looked at this and said, how can this impact the Muslim community? Where would be the opportunities to try and use a similar project? Where could a host country be? And by learning at what happens in one area and then seeing how it can be used to enhance the lives in another area, this is the true benefit of the international collaboration. The take-home message for this is that we both deeply believe that faith enriches our lives. And we need to acknowledge this, the importance that faith has on shaping us, on shaping our lives, and shaping what we do. And we also believe that faith is there to help us interact with each other. The people that would use faith to divide us caused a great deal of frustration, both to Arif and I. So the importance he was a deeply religious individual, and faith was truly important to him. I'd like to close with a quote from the 1500s in England. As part of the awareness, in the Catholic tradition, the church bells are used to indicate when a service is about to begin. So on Sundays, the church bells ring fairly regularly. If the church bell rings during the week, it is often to announce a funeral mass. So that's an indication that somebody has died. This poem talks about the church bells. It says, "No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less. As well as if a promontory were, as well as if a matter of thy friends or thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never sent to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee." Arif, my friend, you've enriched my life in countless ways, personally and professionally. May your soul rest in peace now at the end of your journey. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Many thanks, Professor Carol, for sharing your personal experiences with Professor Arif, as well as sharing your physiological things that you discussed with Professor Arif. Thank you so much. And it is early morning in your part of the world. So thank you so much for accepting this invitation.
Thank you very much, Professor Carol, for beautifully explain the philosophical and human way, the bondage with Arif Siddiqui and with you. It has really enriched our knowledge. Thank you very much. Thank you for getting up in so early in the morning to have some views with us. Thank you.
Now, our next item is to talk about sweet memories with Professor Arif, the architect of SAP. That is by Professor Amar Kumar Chandra, past president, one of the past presidents of SAP. Let me share his presentation.
Please unmute your microphone, sir.
No, I have
muted.
Okay. Please show the slides.
Yeah.
Slide. Please show the slides. Mongala, please show the slides.
I'm going to do that.
I myself is Amar K. Chandra, presently the president of PSI. I have been the ex-president, ex-secretary, and now the advisor of SAP. My contact with Professor Arif Siddiqui since 2007. Next one, please. Next. My friend, my philosopher, my guide. I have close association with Professor Siddiqui for a long, long time. Next one, please. Preconceived idea of Professor Siddiqui materialized in the PSI annual conference at Faridabad, New Delhi, 2007. In 2007, Physiological Society has organized its annual conference in Manav Rachana Institute of Health Sciences, Faridabad, Delhi. Professor Arif Siddiqui attended the conference as invited speaker in request of the organizing secretary, Professor G. Khanna, and actively participated and presented a scientific paper on reproductive physiology. However, this time he came to India with the intuition to develop an organization for the promotion of physiology in the Southeast Asian region. Subsequently, a meeting was organized on the second day where eminent members other than PSI, physiologists from Bangladesh and some other countries were also present. The concept to materialize an organization of physiologists in South Asian region conceived, which was the long-term vision of Professor Arif, came to reality. In the meeting, Professor Arif reiterated that the first official conference scheduled to be for the purpose to be held in Pakistan in the next year, 2008. The idea brought forth by Professor Arif has unanimously supported by the PSI members and present and also the others. That is to materialize a southern next first conference of the physiological societies of the South Asian region in Shifa College of Medicine, Islamabad, Pakistan, 2008. The extensive motivation homework of Professor Arif made it possible to make the physiologists of the subcontinent, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, India, Nepal, including Pakistan, in the annual conference of the Pakistan Physiological Society 2008 under one umbrella after PSI conference in Faridabad within a period of 9 months for the first time in the history of physiology. Professor Arif was the then General Secretary or President of the Pakistan Physiological Societies. Professor Aslam was the then Principal of the college, was the Organizing Secretary of the Pakistan Physiological Conference. To prepare the draft constitution, as well as to finalize the name of this South Asian organization was the outcome of this conference. Professor Arif made it possible to bring the representatives of at least 5 countries of this subcontinent that was mandatory as per SARC. Both the name and draft constitution of the newly formed organization was finalized under the leadership of Professor Arif. It was the first interaction of the eminent faculties, scientists, scholars, students of physiology and the physiological societies of the South Asian region. It is the remarkable achievement and it is done by Professor Siddiqui. Next one, please. It is the photo at Islamabad. Professor Siddiqui is here. Professor Samninan is here. Professor H.R. Ahmed, Professor Muhammad Aslam, Professor Hai from Bangladesh, Professor Shamul Rai Chaudhary. These are the 2 madams from Sri Lanka, madam from Bangladesh, myself, long back. It is a great history and it is a great one. Next one, Professor Paim is also here. This is the 3rd meeting. That is the 2nd biennial conference of SAP in St. John's Medical College, Bangalore, India, 2007. Just after 2 years, this was my 3rd meeting with Professor Arif in St. John's Medical College in the PSI annual conference under the leadership of Professor Sundha Badhani. In this conference, representatives from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Pakistan were actively participated. How far I can remember, Professor Arif was the only representative from the Pakistan Physiological Societies, rather Pakistan. The conference was successful, and in a meeting there, the draft constitution came to the effect. It was started in Islamabad. In the meeting, Professor Arif, Professor Sharin Fernando, Professor Savitri of Sri Lanka, Professor Nurjahan, Professor Firdaus, and others from Bangladesh, Professor Rita Katka from Nepal, Professor Shamul Rai Chaudhary, Professor Kushal Das, and many others, including myself, actively took part. The decision to make its headquarters at Colombo, Sri Lanka was finalized. Simultaneously, to initiate the registration of SAP at SARC headquarters at Colombo under the guidance and leadership of Professor Siddiqui was accepted. This was the outcome of the second biennial conference. Next one, please. This is the St. John's Medical College in Bangalore. I have lost most of the photos, but it is just I am showing. It is a great institute because Professor Arif Siddiqui wanted that our conference will be either in New Delhi or in Bangalore. Otherwise, the participant from Pakistan will not be able to go anywhere freely. So his determination, his ambition has been fulfilled by organizing the conference in St. John's Medical College, Bangalore. And he was the only representative from Pakistan. Next one. And in this conference, the logo of SAP has been finalized, South Asian Association of Physiologists. It is the brain work of Professor Siddiqui. It came in effect in 2010. And in the first brochure or in the first constitution, it came first. Next one, please. Next one. And the third biennial conference in Colombo, Sri Lanka, 2012. Third meeting was organized by the Physiological Society of Sri Lanka in Taj Samudra, Colombo, under the great leadership of Professor Sadi Fernando, the then Secretary General of SAP, wherein my meeting with Professor Arif was for the fourth time. The participants from Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Nepal were many times more than the earlier two biennial conferences. In between the conferences, Professor Siddiqui used to keep close contact with all the executive committee members of SAP through regular mail as well as Skype meetings to improve the quality of the conferences. In spite of his busy schedule in different capacities in Aga Khan University, Karachi, and many other academic institutions, his prime focus was for the promotion of SAP that include inclusion of other member countries like Bhutan, Afghanistan, etc. in SAP. Besides, Professor Siddiqui had great interest for CME, wherein Dr. Rob Carroll of IUPS used to participate almost regularly, and the workshop on this area started in SAP conferences. Next one. This is the conference in Sri Lanka. Professor Siddiqui is here, myself, Professor Sadin, Professor Nurjahan, Professor Aslam, Ardita, and this is our great Mongola. Next one. Next one. And we are in the inaugural program, myself and Professor Siddiqui were in the inaugural program. It was a fantastic conference in Sri Lanka, and all the idea came from the brain of Professor Siddiqui. Next one, please. And fourth biennial conference of SAP in Dhaka, Bangladesh in 2014. This time the biennial conference was organized in Bangabandhu Medical University at Sainbagh, Dhaka by Bangladesh Society of Physiology under the leadership of Professor Nurjahan Begum and her team. We, Professor and Mr. Siddiqui, Professor and Mr. Aslam, Professor H.R. Ahmed have been accommodated in a nice guest house of a sports complex in Sainbagh, Dhaka. There we got the opportunity to interact with each other more closely. I found the dedication in promotion of SAP and their promotion SAP in Sainbagh, Dhaka. There we got the opportunity to interact with each other more closely. I found the dedication in promotion of SAP, and there in Bangladesh, SAP is termed as brainchild of Professor Arif Siddiqui. Today, Madam Siddiqui told that besides her two daughters, they have another child, and that child is nothing but SAP. Professor Mr. Siddiqui has clearly mentioned today. In Bangladesh, he has been termed as SAP is termed as brainchild of Professor Siddiqui. Besides the participation of eminent physiologists, the presence of Dr. Korma Tenzing from Bhutan was the new opening. In this biennial conference, initiative was taken to amend the SAP constitution under the suggestion of a committee led by Professor Siddiqui along with Professor Samuel Rai Choudhury, Professor Sarin Fernando, especially to formulate the nomination of President and Secretary General following the norms of the IUPS FOPS. Next one, please. Next, FOPS conference. In 2016, I met Professor Arif Siddiqui in Bangkok, where I participated in the FOPS conference as General Secretary of the Federation of Indian Physiological Societies, FIP. Professor Arif Siddiqui was also there as a member of the Medical Council Education, representative of the Pakistan Physiological Societies for FOPS. We were there in the same hotel and used to take breakfast and go to the venue at the same time. Professor Adithan, today president of Indonesia, was our common friend. With Professor Arif, I participated in the Executive Council and General Council meeting of FOPS. I found Professor Arif is a long-standing member in the medical education of FOPS, and he was popular among the member countries of FOPS. Every day after coming from the conference, he used to work with the laptop till late night, especially to write down the proceedings of the day, while others used to take rest or pass time with gossiping. This time I brought certain medicine for him from India, as there was not, these are not adequately available in Pakistan. Next, please. Next. 5th Biennial Conference in Dhulikhel, Nepal. This biennial conference was organized in a medical college at Dhulikhel, Nepal by Physiological Society of Nepal under the leadership of Professor Rita Kafka and her team. The conference was attended by many physiologists from as Professor Ruhul Amin, Professor Fatima Begum, and other than Nurjahan Begum, Professor Firdos, etc. from Bangladesh. Professor Sarin Fernando, Professor Savitri from Sri Lanka, Professor Aslam, Professor Ahmed, Professor Somru, Professor Tehsin, Professor Samina, and their scholars from Pakistan, Professor Gangopadhyay, Professor Dr. Rai Chaudhary, Dr. Dilip Gandhi, and students including myself was there. For the official assignment as Vice Chancellor, Professor Siddiqui was not able to participate in this biennial conference. However, he was quite anxious whether Physiological Societies of Nepal was capable to organize the conference, as Nepal suffered a lot for the devastating earthquake in country's recent past. He always used to mail with me. He always used to keep contact with myself, whether how the Nepal Physiological Societies will organize this conference in this devastating situation. He has made arrangement for the financial assistance from IUPS for conducting the workshop on medical education there. Next one, please. This is the 5th Biennial Conference in Nepal, and all the representatives from the different SAP countries are present. Professor Somri is here, Rita is there, Firdos is there. All were closely related, and the concept of Professor Arif Siddiqui has fulfilled that we, the physiologists of the 5 countries or 6 countries, are now the member of a SAP family. We are exchanging our ideas and so on. Next one, please. And this is the 5th Biennial Conference of South Asian Association of Physiologists. Some of the prominent members who participated in the Nepal for the 5th Biennial Conference. Next one. And 6th Biennial Conference of SAP in University of Delhi. I have a great experience for the participations. Just I am narrating this, and probably it is my last but one slide. The participant of the Biennial Conference in Lahore in December 2018 was a strange one. Myself with my wife reached New Delhi without visa in hand to cross the border in Amritsar for Lahore, which is 60 kilometers away. Lahore is 60 kilometers away from India and Amritsar. In the next meeting with necessary documents, we reached Pakistan High Commission office in Chanukkapuri, New Delhi, and spent the entire whole morning in front of one of the gate there. However, no positive response was received, and we are unable to contact with any concerned official. We are aware that to get visa from India is very difficult, to get visa for Pakistan. In the next morning again, we were there and failed to do any positive approach. Under the circumstances, we have no alternative except to contact with Professor Arif. When contacted with Professor Arif, entire matter was narrated, and in reply, he told that please wait and let me to contact with the Foreign Ministry of Pakistan in Islamabad. Within minutes, I got a call from Professor Arif, and he asked me, please tell me the gate number where you are standing. gate number was informed. Immediately, the official who was sitting there in the Pakistan High Commission office received a phone call and asked our names, and then told us to get inside the Pakistan High Commission office, a royal place. Within 2 to 3 hours, after waiting there as VIP treatment, we get our visas. So Professor Arif Siddiqui not only concerned with academic activities, the way he helped us to reach Pakistan for 2008 and 2018 is ever remembered in my mind, in my sweet memory. Next one. There is earlier one. There is another one, earlier one. It is not last. Next, there is another one. So it is the sweet memory. Professor Arif Siddiqui, myself, and Samina is there. Samina was the organizing secretary. There was a slide, probably that has been missed. Next one. Next. It is the SAP conference at Lahore. We are there. Professor Arif is sitting here. And next one. Next. And it is in a hotel poet that has organized by the Pakistan Physiological Societies. It is a great experience. And somehow, next one. Somehow one slide has been missed, wherein I mentioned that Professor Arif Siddiqui was with us, is with us, and will be with us for the promotion of the SAP, for the promotion of the physiology in the Southeast Asian region, and the idea that it was in his mind. He was a PhD from UK. He was a learned man. He was a learned physiologist. He's a great visionary. He has the idea to bring all the South Asian countries under one umbrella. He has fulfilled it. He is always with us. He will always remember with great respect from us. Thank you all for your patience here.
Many thanks, sir, for sharing your sweet memories with Professor Arif, who was the architect of SAP. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Amar Chandra. You have nicely briefed up the history of the whole the story of the biennial conferences and your attachment, emotions with Arif Siddiqui. I just like to add one point here that in 2010, Professor Muhammad Aslam sir was present in St. John's. So this is just I want to add. I think if I'm not wrong, because Professor Aslam sir is also here. He was there in the St. John's. So that's all. And it's a wonderful memory you have told, and it's really required for us to refresh ourselves with great history and legend of Professor Arif Siddiqui. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Mangala.
Right. Next turn is to Professor Noor Jahan Begum, who was a past president of South Asian Association of Physiologists. Madam Begum, would you like to voice your ideas that is about Professor Arif?
Can you hear me? Mangala, can you hear me now? You are hearing?
Yeah, but there is an echo. Here.
Madam, I think your network is poor.
Then I am starting.
You can off the video and try.
I am very much pleased to hear from Professor Amar Chandra. Okay, Raisa. Here the weather is very bad. Possibly this is on video talk. Visible? Is it visible now, Professor Dash?
It is better as compared to earlier. Madam, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I am just want to say something about the commemoration of Professor Arif Siddiqui. I am waiting for this because I met first Arif in 2008 when first SAP, and after that, starting first SAP, he made several phone calls to me, and time to time he asked me to join the first SAP, and I was there in the first SAP at Rawalpindi.
Hello.
That is Islamabad. And contact. I was is doing his work so tremendously and makes any work successful. I was very much pleased, and also I was with him, and we go to Pakistan to meet the first SAP. After that, I also met several times in other SAP, that is second SAP, third SAP. And when he came to Bangladesh, there also I met with him, and I know so many times. And he also gave me some suggestions, advice, how I will make success our fourth SAP, that is 2040. Next, I also went to Birmingham, the IUPS. Here, there also he was there, and also the Bahrain Medical Education, the Medical Education Conference. And I have seen that he always tried to do the better thing and give advice. And I was very much thankful to him, because it was very much important for me to organize our SAP program. Now SAP has been established, I think so, and it was coming from the Professor Arif Siddiqui, the real educationist, and was very much enthusiastic. The SAP program, Dhaka, he always suggests me the fruitful advice, which was very much helpful and making the conference a successful one. And from Professor Amor Chandur, I came to know so many things. And just I am hearing and thinking that how this SAP occurred. Now, and I think, may Allah refrain. I also asked Bhabhi to get peace. I know her in my Dhaka conference, and she was a very good lady. And ultimately, we though lost our SAP, but we ultimately get the SAP, established SAP from Professor Arif Siddiqui because of his long-lasting witness. We will never forget Professor Arif Siddiqui, because he's a man who is very friendly to us and very much helping to us. I think all of we call Allah to establish this SAP more. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, President Noor Jahan, for expressing your views about Sultan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nurjahan, Professor Nurjahan. Your beautiful memory with Arif Siddiqui really refreshes us once again. And we need always your guidance and support. In absence of Professor Arif Siddiqui, now all seniors must take more role, more advice and more guidance. Thank you. Mangala.
Professor Shirin Handu, Person President of South Asian Association of Physiologists. It's your turn to talk about Professor Arif. Professor Shirin, over to you.
Very good evening to all of you, and good morning and good afternoon to those of you who are joining from other parts of the world. I have decided to talk on Arif Siddiqui, the mentor, colleague, and friend. And most of you have also spoken about some aspects that I have spoken. I'm going to speak on, but probably these are some of my personal experiences. And as I said earlier, some people come into your life from nowhere, and they journey with you for a short time and exit at an unexpected time, leaving lasting impacts. Arif Siddiqui was one such person who walked into my life from nowhere. Today, I would like to talk about him as the mentor of SAP and a colleague in physiology and a friend personally and to my family. When I went through the emails that he had sent me, the first email that I could trace was on a Thursday, 18th October 2007 at 1:38 p.m. He said, "Dear Dr. Fernando, thank God, at last I could make you responding. I have been wanting to obtain go back. I have been wondering to obtain Sri Lankan colleagues' input on the SAP document that I forwarded last month. Despite repeated reminders, I don't know whether you got these messages or not. In frustration, I tried to find out your number. Eventually, I got from Professor Jayawardena. He was our dean at that time. And then your contact. Anyway, I'm sorry to have missed you. However, do forward your private phone numbers just in case. Please do respond to the messages on SAP's document at your earliest so that we close this chapter and approach SAC Secretariat for its registration." This was the email that he sent when I responded to his previous emails. Unfortunately, most of it has gone to my spam. So when my office staff told me that he called from Pakistan, then I replied, "Sorry to have missed your call. We were at a meeting trying to call, or please send a message. I'm at the computer." At that time, I didn't have a mobile phone, so I could only respond with email. So this first communication with Arif, I think summarizes him, his character, and his vision for SAP, his perseverance to achieve through his vision professionally and by personal attempts, his enthusiasm and genuineness, his annoyance when not responding, and paying gratitude when he achieves this. So all these characters, I think, are there in his first email. He had sent the draft constitute, and I don't know how he coined me, but then I discussed it with some of my colleagues, and we decided we will give our inputs, and we went ahead, and after that I communicated. So then this was the beginning of SAP, the historic day when we met in Islamabad in 2008. It was his brainchild. But between the first communication and 2008 November, there were many more communications. Announcements were made about the first SAP conference. Then there was a bomb. There were bombs in Sri Lanka, bombs in Pakistan. So we were undecided whether to travel to Pakistan or not. There were many anticipations, but finally there were achievements, and the South Asian Association of Physiologists was born. Then the second conference was held in 2010 in Bangalore. Professor Arif and Professor Aslam as the founder president and the founder general secretary of SAP participated in this conference. And as the general secretary of SAP, he ensured maximum participation from all countries. He facilitated affordable registration, accommodation, and travel. He also assisted. We had, that time, I think Professor Sandhya Avadani was the secretary of the conference committee, and we used to have many Skype calls. Professor Arif used to persuade us to communicate and organize this, and he also assisted to improve the scientific validity of the conference. He was very concerned that we get the right resource people through his contacts and his networks. He got the organizers to get the best resource persons. Also, he promoted, as Amar Chandra mentioned, promoted the vision of SAP and fellowship among SAP members to the maximum. I think it was at this conference that we decided on the SAP logo, and also to have a SAP website, and also to have conferences biennially, so that we continue this the vision of SAP. The SAP 3 was held in November in 2012, and Professor Amar Chandra was the president, and Professor Arif continued as the secretary. And I was the conference chairperson with Piyusha Atapattu as my conference secretary. So it was a challenge to organize this conference in Colombo. And there were numerous emails, Skype calls, requests, negotiations going between me and Arif, and also some of our conference organizing committees. But later on, looking back, sometimes I found it difficult to convince my own committee that why Professor Arif is pushing us to do things. But at the end, we realized it was all for the benefit of SAP and its members. As Mangala mentioned, he organized this education workshop, and through his contacts, he managed to get many travel grants to get the SAP resource persons down for this conference. These are some of the memories of that SAP 3 conference. And I'm sure from the look of Professor Arif, I think he was contented and happy with the organization of SAP 3. And here, some of the members who participated, the seniors and the juniors. And it was a sigh of relief after the 3 days for me to finish the workshop, starting with the pre-conference workshop and ending with a post-conference workshop held in Peradeniya Kandy and in Ruhuna, Galle Medical Faculty. Professor Arif traveled to the hill capital Kandy and he was very impressed with that organization. So that organizing SAP 3 strengthened our comradeship and colleagueship, and also it helped us to develop lasting friendships. The families met, Professor Amachandra, then Mrs. Siddiqui is here. So that was, I think, the beginning of more lasting friendships. Next, talking about Arif as a colleague. Just as Mangala or Savitri, who are my colleagues in physiology, Arif also became a colleague in physiology because he strongly believed in promoting physiology education and physiological sciences, and that was his prime aim. This he facilitated at every SAP conference. There was a education workshop, and he stretched his personal and professional and administrational connections to get down the best resource persons. This, of course, went beyond borders. Geopolitics, age, any other matters did not matter to him, but what he wanted was the outcomes to be the best. So he translated whatever the outcomes of these workshops into action and in disseminating knowledge. This is the education workshop that we had in Bangalore, where he spoke as a resource person. And then he also spoke at the SAP 3 conference. And this is the workshop that Mangala organized, the education workshop with various resource persons. I think Prof. Carol was there, Barbara Goodman, Sheila Pinjai. And not only that, he made sure that the outcomes of the workshop is published in Advances in Physiological Education journal. So those are things that I learned from him as a colleague, that we should do things to translate into action and for greater good of the advancement of physiology. Between 2012 and 14, where it was my tenure as the president of SAP, our ties became closer as a colleague and a friend. During this time, I also took my sabbatical leave and I went with my children to Australia and I worked there. So it was, I think, more often than I would have stayed in Colombo. He communicated through emails, WhatsApp, Viber calls, irrespective of time differences, to facilitate maximum participation in the Bangladesh 2014 conference. To persuade to get the resource persons. And of course, he used to let it on me, or he let it off his frustrations when there were no responses. and also his concern for the family and their well-being. He used to often ask about my husband, who was in Colombo at that time, and the children. So it was, the friendship grew, I would say. These are some of the photographs of the Bangladesh conference. And he got down this resource person from Monash University through getting a grant from IBRO, International Brain Research Organization. I think Mrs. Arif is in the background here. So there were other resource persons and there was maximum participation from Sri Lanka. So he was very happy. Arif as a friend. I don't have pictures to put there because the friendship is in the heart and I can't show evidence for that. But maybe he discussed about the children and family. I got an invitation for his daughter's wedding and he called my husband and me and said to somehow to come, but we couldn't make it. He also inquired about our future plans, children's, each other's well-being quite frequently. And I think this was the last time we met physically in 2018. I would like to end my presentation with the last communication I had with him on WhatsApp. On the 25th of March 2020, because there was no response from him, I asked, hope you're keeping well. What is the situation in Pakistan? Please adhere to strict precautions and stay safe. Because that was the time that COVID was rising and I was worried about with his condition, whether he was silent because of some other illness. Then when there was no reply, again I wrote, is no news good news? I'm getting worried. Then his reply was, unfortunately, this isn't like that. Post last session, I think that was chemo on March 6th, there has been all sorts of terrible effects followed by some complications adding to suffering. Lost another 7 kilos. Anyway, had the PET scan done yesterday. Very crucial to evaluate the further prognosis. Let's hope for the best. Remember, in thoughts and prayers, please. On a separate note, I am seriously considering to relinquish the office of President of SAP. In a way, nothing is happening and I see total malaise. Will feel more relaxed. Take care, please, regards. Then on the 4th of April, he wrote, my PET scan results showed marked improvement and most of the hypermetabolic tissues receded to normalcy. Rest will follow suit. Today, my oncologist was also very excited to see the bodily response. Complete recovery is on its way, inshallah. Thanks for remembering in thoughts and prayers, regards. I replied, so happy to hear that. Thank and praise to God. We'll continue to pray for full recovery. Stay safe and stay blessed. Regards. That was our last communication. And in the sweet by and by, we shall meet someday on that beautiful shore. Till then, rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Shireen, for articulating it in a nicer way, that is to talk about Professor Arif as a mentor, a colleague, and a friend. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Professor Shireen. It is an excellent way you have presented the memories and histories a part of it. Thank you very much.
I am so sorry. I have missed Professor Aslam's presentation in the program. So, sir, Professor Aslam, are you there? I am so sorry.
Sir,
Hello?
you are muted, sir. Please unmute. I was thinking that sir will be giving talk after me or like that it is decided. I was thinking because he was a former president. So I was thinking that both the president will be at the bottom. Okay, no, I request sir, please
Professor
share.
Aslam, sir, you are the first president of SAP and also you were the immediate past president of SAP. So I am so sorry once again. And I would like to invite you to talk about the tribute to Professor Arif Siddiqui, a pictorial presentation. Let me share your presentation.
Yeah.
Professor Aslam, over to you.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. It is my elated privilege to present here deliberation to Dr. Arif Siddiqui from the Forum of Friends and Family under ambit of SAP. Next, please. Can you handle the slides myself?
Yeah. No, I will.
Right.
I will, sir.
Now, next slide, please. Now, the Professor Dr. Arif Siddiqui was born in April 1948 at Karachi. He graduated his BSc honors in 1970 and MSc in physiology in 1972 from University of Karachi, Pakistan. He qualified his MPhil in reproductive physiology in 1976 from Quaid-e-Azam University, Islamabad, Pakistan, and did his doctoral PhD in reproductive neuroendocrinology from University of Glasgow, UK in 1966. And it was exactly July 1986 that I met Arif for the first time at San Francisco in the second neuroendocrinology conference. And since then, it became a true and a family well-knit colleagueship and friendship. And we used to share and care many things which even Arif couldn't share with Shaheen, or me couldn't share with Anjum, my wife. Next slide, please. Now, about Arif, the IUPS president, Professor Julie Chan from Taiwan, uttered words about Arif, and she says about Arif, he was a pioneer with great vision and passion in physiology education in the Asian region and beyond. Next, please. Next slide, please. And the co-chair of IUPS Education Committee, Professor Robert Carroll, says about Arif, his passing is a massive loss for physiology community. Next slide, please. And Professor Kusal Das, presently president of SAP from India, uttered his word about Arif. Physiologists across the globe will never forget Professor Siddiqui for his outstanding contributions of physiology teaching methodology. Next slide, please. And Professor Dr. Muhammad Ayub, President, Pakistan Physiological Society from Pakistan, says about Arif, a reliable friend, a loyal brother, perfect mentor, a keen researcher, and a frontline leader of physiology. Next slide, please. Professor Amar Kumar Chandra, former President SAP from India, says about Arif, a warrior who fought for the betterment of physiology. Next slide, please. And Professor Ayusha Atapatu, who is editor of SAP newsletter and currently the vice president of SAP from Sri Lanka, says about Arif, he believed that bringing together the physiologists of SARC countries would be the way forward, and devising ways and means of doing his towards his good. Next slide, please. And Professor Shireen Fernando, former President SAP from Sri Lanka, says about Arif, what I see most in Arif Siddiqui is his genuine commitment towards physiology, education, and advancement of physiology in South Asia region. Next slide, please. And then Professor Dr. Mahvesh Arooj, former Vice President SAP from Lahore, Pakistan, says about Arif, he was a great physiologist, teacher, researcher, human being, and a legend in the true sense. Next slide, please. And then Professor Dr. Sabina Malik, currently Vice President SAP from Lahore, Pakistan, says about Arif, a down-to-earth person who would trust in his team, a man of integrity who believed in systematic approach and merit of societies. Next slide, please. And Professor Salma Kundi, President of Pakistan Medical Association from Pakistan, says about Arif, he would know a person just by looking at him, which is a quality lacked by many people. Next slide, please. And Professor Rita Khadka, former President SAP from Nepal, said about Arif, we lost a great mentor. Dr. Arif helped me to establish Physiological Society of Nepal. Next slide, please. And Professor Dr. Abdul Azim from Karachi, Pakistan, said about Arif, how sensitive Professor Arif was regarding the matters of Pakistan Physiological Society and its connection with international bodies. Next slide, please. And then Professor Dr. Adnan Khan Burwala from Karachi, formerly Vice President SAP, said from Pakistan about Arif, Professor Arif was always helping and encouraging youngsters. Next slide, please. And then Professor Mangala Gunatile, now currently General Secretary of SAP from Sri Lanka, said about Arif, we met every 2 years to share our experience in physiology in the IUPS, FAOP, or SAP meetings. Dr. Arif was an Asian physiology joint. Next slide, please. And Professor Noorjahan, past president of SAP from Bangladesh, said about Arif. Now, he dreamed to strengthen the relationship among physiologists, young researchers, and scientists in the South Asian region. And then next slide, please, yes. Professor Dr. Muhammad Ruhul Amin from Bangladesh uttered about Arif. Dr. Arif was our inspiration. He was a lighthouse. Let us review his work and go forward to reach our common target. Next slide, please. 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 Where I was just speechless over his expiry. I couldn't utter a single word on it. And then me, Rita, and Shaheen Bhabi, we are the witness that in cry and prayers and tears in our eyes, she used to run and used to call me at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and showed me the chits written to me by Arif on his bed with oxygen on. And then his last moments, I will utter a few words which you might have not heard ever about his last few days of his life. Professor Arif Siddiqui developed diabetes mellitus about 20 or 25 years ago, whilst at Aga Khan, and was on insulin therapy. Few months before his death, he developed lymphoma and underwent 4 courses of chemotherapy at Shifa International Hospital, Islamabad, which many of you have seen it physically because the first conference was held there when I was there as principal of the college. Each time he didn't tolerate the cytotoxic drugs and exhibited many symptoms. Later, he developed respiratory features like shortness of breath and pneumonia. His COVID tests were repeatedly negative. At Maroof International Hospital, Islamabad, where Bhabhi Shaheen and myself, like with a lot of difficulty, because then was an era of first wave of coronavirus and people were not aware of it. And there was no treatment known. It's not known even now. But in that day, it was sort of a confusion, especially in the developing countries like ours. So we went from door to door from various hospitals with a lot of difficulty, right? Professor Bhabhi Shaheen and myself were able to get him admitted in Maroof International Hospital, one of the posh hospitals in Islamabad. He was given oxygen and later was put on ventilator. So I went to his bedside with all the COVID kit with him just a day, 12 hours before going for ventilator with Shaheen Bhabhi that time. So he was put on ventilator. He couldn't make it and breathed his last on Friday. Next slide, please. Next slide. And he breathed his last. No, previous slide, please. Can you go back, please? Yes. And he breathed his last on Friday, May 15th, 2020 at 9:30 a.m. And that day fell on 21st of Ramadan Kareem. Those who are from Muslim religion, they know the worth and virtue of 21st of Ramadan. This is the day and which probably our holy book, Quran, was revealed to Muhammad, peace be upon him, the messenger of Allah. So he died on 21st of Ramadan. What a life and what a death. On 21st of Ramadan. Professor Siddiqui left behind his beloved spouse, Shaheen Arif, 2 daughters, Dr. Hiba, who is a neurologist in USA, and Rida Arif, who is before you on the screen, who is working in heritage archaeology in Austria. Now he has left behind legacy of many family members, loving brothers. I am very well acquainted with one of those, Brigadier Adnan Siddiqui, and thousands of medical students, friends, well-wishers, and admirers. Next slide. Now, this is the slide. So where he is laying in rest. And please mind, I was told by Shaheen Bhabhi and Rita Beti that the grass on his grave hails from the grass of the lawn of his house in Rawalpindi, Pakistan. And then I would end with the tribute uttered to Arif Siddiqui by Dr. H.R. Ahmed from Aga Khan University, Karachi, Pakistan. Now, Dr. Ahmed says about Arif, Dr. Arif Siddiqui walked upon the planet with medals of dignity and integrity, leaving behind a rich legacy of enabling requirement. So he left us enabling requirement and not enabling requirement. I repeat, Dr. Arif Siddiqui walked upon the planet with medals of dignity and integrity, leaving behind a rich legacy of enabling in our environment and human connectivity across the globe. Next slide, please. And he says, sleep well, my friend. And I say, sleep well, one of the fathers of Pakistan Physiological Society and one of the fathers of South Asian Association of Physiologists. With these words, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your nice presentation, for taking us through the pictorial presentation about Professor Arif, as well as the other thoughts that they shared on Professor Arif. Thank you so much, and forgive me for missing you at the correct time in the program.
That's all right.
Thank you very much, Professor Aslam. It's a really heart-touching tribute to the legend, Professor Arif Siddiqui, who is in our heart. You have really touched our heart by giving such a wonderful memorabilia. Thank you, sir.
Right. Next in the agenda, I would like to invite Professor Rita Khadka, another past president from Nepal, a past president of South Asian Association of Physiologists from Nepal. So she would like to talk about Professor Arif Siddiqui as a true leader. Over to you, Rita. Prof. Rita.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Mangala. Yes, I'm sharing my slides. Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, we can. You can go to the presentation mode.
Yes.
Yes.
Just a moment. Just a minute. Oh. So thank you, Professor Mangala, giving me opportunity to share some memory about Professor Arif Siddiqui. Professor Arif Siddiqui, really, I found a true leader. He had all the attributes of a successful leader. When we find the attributes of a successful leader, we see these are the attributes of a successful leader. So successful leaders are very good communicators. They acknowledge and give credits to others. They are open-minded, consider new ideas and view situation without bias. They are optimistic, express their thoughts through words and action. I found all these attributes in Professor Arif Siddiqui. For the first time, I met Professor Arif Siddiqui in 2009 in Kyoto, Japan, during 36th IPS Congress. We introduced to each other during tea time. In a very short period of time, he explained effectively about SAP, its goal, that this SAP, the goal of SAP is to work for the physiologist in the region and to promote physiology in region and to work in collaboration. Like everything he explained in very short period of time, very effectively, very smoothly. Along with that, he also explained about the first SAP conference. It was, he was explaining and I was imagining that how beautifully it was conducted. Then he also explained that how he searched during the first SAP conference any Nepali physiologist, but he could not contact. So everything explained in a very interesting way. We kept listening to that, and I found him a very effective communicator. He could explain everything very beautifully, and I could understand everything very effectively. So not only he explained about SAP, he also encouraged us to establish physiological society in Nepal and assured us for help and support. So he continuously encouraged and helped us through several emails that reflected the integrity of true leader. So exactly Professor Ahmad explained about him that Professor Arif Siddiqui was a man of integrity. Really, I found him a man of integrity. As a result, we could initiate steps towards establishing a physiological society in Nepal. And by 2010, we could establish physiological society in Nepal. It was a very happy pleasure moment when we met again in Bangalore during SAP 2 conference in 2010. I was that time introduced with Professor Ahmad sir, and I was very happy at that time. This is the very happy moment, photo of very happy moment we were enjoying. And we discussed several things over there. I attended their GVM also. And it was the first interaction with the SAP members at that time. So I kept on listening to everybody. And I found Professor Arif Siddiqui was really a very open-minded. He accepted new ideas and added his thoughts. So he was very open-minded. Then an issue was raised in 2011 about the regarding registration of SAP as a trust. Then I raised the point that no, SAP should not be registered as a trust, because when trust is there, then there is no question of election. So SAP should be registered as a professional society, and that issue was raised. Then Professor Arif, I thought Professor Arif was a bit angry with me, but when we met again in Taipei, Taiwan, then we discussed everything over there, and then everything was solved there, that why it should be registered as a society, not as a trust. Then I found that he was very optimistic person, and he accepted, and later on it was worked to register as a society. All member we discussed, and again it was discussed very extensively, and it was registered in Sri Lanka as a society rather than in Pakistan. So it showed that he was very optimistic, and he worked for the benefit of society, benefit of SAP always. We again met in Sri Lanka during SAP 3 conference, and there I found again his leadership was very good. There also lots of things were discussed regarding the membership structure based on the number of members in a society, then inclusion of associate members, their fee structures. So whenever he discussed anything. He was so smoothly discussing that everything was clear, and it again showed his he was very optimistic and open-minded and man of integrity. We met in Dhaka, and there again I found before this conference, that is in Dhaka, from 2013, he regularly encouraged us to propose for SAT 5 in Kathmandu. And at that moment, we were not ready. Actually, Nepalese geologists were not ready. But his encouragement, we again and again discussed, and we were ready, and we proposed in this conference for SAP 5 in Kathmandu. But later on, what happened? Devastating earthquake occurred in Nepal. It was very painful condition of Nepal, and again we were not in a condition to conduct SAP 5 conference in Nepal. But Professor encouraged us regularly. He sent us several emails and even phone calls and encouraged us that no, this is you people can do it. And he also assured for every help. So he organized funds from IPS. He helped fund from other UK Physiological Society and other places, and somehow we could conduct SAF 5 conference in Kathmandu. But again, I was not happy when this conference was conducted, because Professor Arif Siddiqui could not attend this meeting because of some emergency commitment in the university. I just read some questions also, found with him on phone call that no, I said no, I'm not going to conduct it because you encouraged from the day one and right now you are not here. Then he again counseled me, he again encouraged, no, it's nothing, it will be brilliant, just conduct it. And we could successfully conduct this conference. Then it was the last meeting with Professor Arif Siddiqui, that our great leader, and after that we lost it. So this conference was very memorable, enjoyable, and successfully conducted. We enjoyed during meeting, and we all were very happy that now SAP is going to be led by Professor Arif Siddiqui, who is the founder one, and his vision will definitely promote SAP. But unfortunately, we lost him. But one thing, that before 1 month of his death, one day we had talk on Skype, and he just explained everything about his treatment, and he said that I'm not well. But at that moment also, he was just worrying about for the SAP, that's the growth. He talked a lot about SAP, how to increase SAP, that's the collaboration work and all other things. And that time I was again thinking that he is the man of integrity. He is very optimistic, though he is not well himself, but is still thinking of SAP only. So I'd like to salute Professor Arif Siddiqui, such a great leader, such a true leader. And we want to work on his mission. So in summary, I found Professor Arif Siddiqui a true leader, a very good communicator, contributor, always acknowledged and gave credit to others. He was open-minded, considered new idea, and viewed situation without bias. He was optimistic, always expressed his thoughts through words and action. He is a living legend. I again salute it. And I pray to God, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita, for sharing your experience and thoughts about Professor Arif as a true leader. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rita, for excellent way you have presented the memory of legendary Professor Arif Siddiqui. We are really thankful to you for a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Professor Savitri, it's your turn to voice about Professor Arif Siddiqui, because you were the Secretary General during presidency of Professor Arif. Over to you, Professor Savitri.
Thank you, Mangala, for the opportunity. I think it is a special privilege and a pleasure and a great honor to honor the vision of Professor Arif Siddiqui for South Asian physiologists. He's been a legend of our time and an exemplary leader for all of us. Please forgive me if there are deficits or flaws in the presentation. They are not intentional. Madam Siddiqui, my profound apologies and profound condolences to you. But I think we are honoring his special presence here today. And may his soul recognize that we all love him very much and respect him for all what he has done for the betterment of our region and our peoples of Asia. My slide is not moving. It's taking a bit of time.
Does Mangala have?
No, I don't have your presentation.
Okay.
Yes, okay, right. All right. So we had in Professor Arif Siddiqui an academic par excellence who served the cause of physiology and physiology teaching in many institutions of Pakistan, Sweden, London, and he was a senior lecturer, a dean, and a vice chancellor, and a researcher in reproductive endocrinology and reproductive neuroendocrinology, with widely published publications to his credit. And has served in several editorial boards and editorial journals, and continued lifelong learning as a priority, and served as a medical educator for undergraduate, postgraduate, and academics of the entire world. He was the founding member of the Pakistan Physiological Society, the South Asian Association of Physiologists, a founding vice chancellor for Bharat Hogson University in Karachi, and served many academic bodies as the IUPS and the FAOPS as an organizational genius. He served SAP by founding it. From 2007, I have been in communication with him because I was the secretary of the Physiological Society of Sri Lanka at that time. And since the inception of SAP until his demise, I have been having many, many long conversations with him. So I've been working under him since that time, and my pleasure and privilege was to be his Secretary General for the period of 2018 to 2020 until his demise. And the founder of SAP Physiologists bridged the physiologists in the region. The physiologists in the region are divided by ethnic, cultural, geopolitical, and stupid political ideologies which are perpetrated and passed down to the entire region. And he saw through this, and he had the vision to motivate all of us to rally around him to set up SARP. So here you see the SARP 1 conference in Islamabad, the second one, which was held successfully at St. John's Medical College in India, and the third one where Sri Lanka hosted the SARP conference. And it was a wonderful set of events which bridged the borders and brought the SARP physiologists under one umbrella. The first SARP conference in Islamabad, Pakistan was due to be held in 2007, but then there were again geopolitical problems. And here I share with you the second announcement and call for abstracts, which he circulated to all of us and made sure that there was participation from all our nations. Then fourth SARP and beyond was very well recorded, and all proceedings of conferences were published in abstract books, and you can see them now in the SARP website. So SARP, as an educator of physiology, his prime motivation and pet topic, he wanted us physiologists to be best teachers first. And he motivated all of us to participate in teaching physiology. And every year, with every biennial year, with the SARP conferences, organized teaching physiology workshops. Here you have the second one, which was in St. John's Medical College in India, and the last one with the valedictory session, which was in Lahore in Pakistan. Then the first IUPS-sponsored medical education workshop on a SARP platform. Sharon shared this with you, and I share the same slide with you. We had an international panel of experts, all with Professor Arif's contributions. He who brought this entire panel and unified them to the East and the West. And we had a publication with all the proceedings, with the collaboration of Professor Rob Carroll and Mangala. Thank you so much for this. Then we had these workshops that were always continued and progressed through the Plaza platform. So he also wanted documentation and linkages between conferences amongst the physiologists. Professor Kusardas and he started the first SARP bulletin, where a milestone was to create a forum, the physiology community of South Asia closer, to encourage and establish collaborations, develop and strengthen the networking and friendships, and a forum to bridge all cultural barriers. So this is the first SARP bulletin that he compiled, and he made sure that the bulletin was revived again with Piyush Pattu as the editor. And we have a SARP bulletin coming up every quarter now. And he set up the TORs for the editorial members. He appointed the entire editorial membership with representation from all the countries and gave constructive criticism and ideas. He created the inaugural website under the sarpphysiologistwebs.com platform, again with the help of Professor Kusardas, and it had been functional until 2021, till we launched the second proper website, again under his leadership, where we finalized the website, and unfortunately we launched it after his demise. But all the spade work for the entire website was done by him. And now we have a fully functional website, thanks to him. He designed the SARP letterhead, a gorgeous one with all the slides and the flags of each country and our logo, and also the also the president and the council and the vice presidents of each country. He was an international teacher, and when he was appointed Chairman Education Commission FEOPS, he sent this email to me saying, certainly an honor for all of us at SAP, as this will pave the way for better understanding and cooperation between SAP and FEOPS. It would be about great learning, as we would be able to engage expertise for the benefit and promotion of physiology teaching. I trust cooperation and understanding of all concerned at SAP would be for the undertaking. Just to update, and on the sidelines, we held an executive council meeting of SAP and discussed pressing issues. The vision for SAP from Professor Siddiqui was stimulated by his wide distant travels, vast international exposure as an academic and a researcher. But he had a very quick brain to recognize and seize the opportunity to establish links and stimulate academics and learned groups. He led by example and conducted many of the workshops and symposia and facilitated dissemination of academic events. And finally, at every conference that he attended, he enjoyed the aesthetic and cultural values of each country he attended to. When he came to India, he traveled with me and my husband all the way to visit the sites and see the Vrindavan Gardens and the Hindu Kovils in India, to visit the Mysore Palace, and of course buy a sari for Mrs. Arif. And then in Bangladesh, we did the city tour together. And in Seoul, in Korea, we did the city tour together again. So, I mean, we've had many opportunities to interact with him on a personal scale. But his greatest gift was that he managed to unify SAP and IUPS and FAOPS through education and collaboration. And here I show him as being the teacher of all these international groups who attended the IUPS workshop, and becomes a shining light and a beacon from Asia to the world. He also made sure that he had sideline meetings of all the Asian delegates of SAP who attended the conference. Here I show you a picture of Professor Arif discussing the SAP 4 conference at the Birmingham IUPS in UK, and then the FEOPS in Taiwan. So the academic plans as president of SAP was to be able to clearly judge an informative document and communicate dissemination of material. As his Secretary General, I had to keep abreast of all communications and respond or action within 24 hours, or otherwise I get a ping reminding me, email online. So discuss with him to prior to our finalizing action, recalled us to have long chats late into the night, where Mrs. Shaheen and my husband both too come in from both sides saying it's late enough now to stop. So the time of day was immaterial for him, and it was wonderful to work with him. His vision for SHARP was to have resource persons like Professor Sendrik Aryapatnam from Armenia, who was the final recipient of the SAP document that he wrote to him, Professor Rob Carroll and Professor Noriti Kobuji, who collaborated in our SAP 2021 session. So his visions for SAP was to collaborate with academic programs, link up between countries, and exchange academic excellence, exchange students and postgraduate facilities between countries, and establish collaborative research. And the first one was set up in Sri Lanka with Pakistan and Bangladesh, talking about color blindness amongst medical students. We had links with the international community and fostered development of physiology. SAP was the brainchild of Professor Arif, He carried this baby selflessly and untiringly without any personal gains until his demise. And he fought for the betterment of physiology in the region, linked up Bhutan and established Dr. Kamatenzing as an associate member. He meant to link up Maldives and Afghanistan that does not have any physiological societies. He also said, we should be aware that with nearly 1,000 medical colleges and dozens of university departments and research institutions in the region, there's a huge potential for promotion of the discipline that would eventually translate into better healthcare and research. However, to make a difference, there are challenges. Notable amongst these are lack of funds, lack of vitality, but relative convenience of physical movement would be a benefit. Finally, these are his words, and I quote, our efforts are only geared towards running the PPS and SAP or SAP in a professional way. After all, 200 medical colleges and departments are in operation would be definitely to the functioning, improve the functioning of the society. Rest assured, and we are all there to promote physiology with no personal gains or projections whatsoever. Let's work together, and I see a lot of opportunities. Stay alert and capitalize on opportunities available. Think big. The SARP bulletin is exactly in line with the vision and mission of SARP, and ultimately would expand the horizons and link with the global flora. So every work of love done with a full heart brings us close to God. Mother Teresa said, and Professor Kusal Das sent this to me in the morning. Professor Arif Siddiqui, sir, you have been the epitome of this greatness. We warmly respect you and may your soul rest in peace. Personally, Madam Shaheen and our two daughters, it is lovely to have you with us. And you have had the privilege of a wonderful husband and a son. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Savitri, for sharing your thoughts, experiences about the vision of Professor Arif in a different manner. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
So we are coming towards
excellent way you have presented, and we really liked the way you have concluded with this quotation from Mother Teresa. It's really fit for Professor Arif Siddiqui. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And I got it from you today in the morning. Thank you for that. Because I wanted to find something to fit in person. And I got it. Thank you.
So we are coming towards the end of the program today. And I would like to invite Professor Samina Malik, who is the Vice President of South Asian Association of Physiologists representing Pakistan, to talk about the scientific contribution of Professor Arif Siddiqui. Samina, over to you.
Greetings all. Thank you, Professor Mangala. I'm going to share my screen now. So it falls to my lot to talk about Professor Arif Siddiqui as a researcher. You know that it is not possible to encompass the role of this giant, Professor Arif Siddiqui, as a researcher with more than 35 high impact publications. So I've decided to focus on his most read work, or I should say one of his most read work on type 2 diabetes mellitus and its pathogenesis. So Professor H.R. Ahmed, if he's here, he put me to this task to follow the butterflies in his stomach that made him publish his most impactful work. So I tried to manage that what were the butterflies that led him to discover something novel or a novel mechanism of significance that the world must see. So these were some of the butterflies for type 2 diabetes mellitus pathophysiology. His paper is published in World Journal of Diabetes in 2015. The question he had in his mind was, as mentioned in yellow, the role of inflammation in pathophysiology of type 2 diabetes mellitus, that what is that role? And he has been thinking that there must be a role of gene-to-gene interactions and gene and environment interactions, and likewise gene and nutrient interactions. So there are possibilities to discover something by digging out on these rectangles and ovals and triangles. And then there might be a link between single nucleotide polymorphisms of inflammatory cytokines and how it leads to type 2 diabetes mellitus in presence of these other factors. So then he further identified that many SNPs or single nucleotide polymorphisms, they exist, and there are genes that are responsible for pro-inflammatory cytokines. They may act on them, or they may act on anti-inflammatory cytokines. And then there is a polygenic mode of inheritance due to involvement of multiple SNPs. And regarding the gene environment and gene nutrient interactions, his focus was on exercise and diet. So he identified through literature survey that based on ethnicity, the subclinical inflammatory markers, they vary. So he was looking for this variation. And he found that in different ethnicities, these subclinical inflammatory markers, they are increased, or some of them might be increased in certain ethnicities. But in toto, he was able to identify these subclinical inflammatory markers that are increased months before the occurrence of the disease itself. Now, you know, Professor Arif Siddiqui could not do anything without getting himself immersed in that. So probably he immersed himself into diabetes mellitus. He identified these 4 pro-inflammatory cytokines in different ethnic groups, and he found that they were very much present in Pakistan. And then they led to glucotoxicity and lipotoxicity, both resulting into mitochondrial injury, oxidative stress, as well as beta cell apoptosis in type 2 diabetes mellitus. Professor Aslam was his co-author. I would like to focus on Indian population here because we are receiving this webinar from India. So although his work was focused on different ethnicities, but let's focus our attention first on the Indian population, because I cannot extend it to more than 15 minutes. So the risk in Indian population due to gene-to-gene interaction, he found that the individual SNPs are not responsible to cause type 2 diabetes mellitus, although a combination of alleles will increase the risk. Like a combination of these 2 alleles interleukin 6 and TNF alpha, they increase the risk to 21 times, whereas a triple combination increase the risk to 314 times. So it shows that presence of just a minor allele A in all 3 of them has increased the risk to a substantial amount. So it indicates strong gene-to-gene interaction then. Likewise, on gene-environment interaction, his focus was on physical activity, body mass index like overweight, and mental and physical stress, dietary habits, and on smoking that leads to oxidative stress and also increases the inflammatory cytokines, and on the lifestyle. The influence of gene-environment interaction would vary and affect the age of onset of type 2 diabetes mellitus, as well as the response to the treatment, and it will also affect the onset of complications of type 2 diabetes. And finally, regarding gene-nutrient interaction, he looked into the effect of serum adiponectin levels and the dependence of insulin sensitivity on the presence of saturated fatty acids. So in a way, recommending the use of unsaturated fatty acids. So SNP would influence the limit to which energy is derived from the dietary fat. And he saw this in men, but not in women, that they have less insulin resistance when they consume unsaturated or monounsaturated fatty acids and carbohydrate diet in comparison with the saturated ones. And the lipid lowering drugs, he found that they may reduce the effect of genotype on inflammation. So I conclude that there are multiple factors that are responsible for the pathogenesis of type 2 diabetes mellitus that include all these factors. That is, serum levels of cytokines should be checked, insulin sensitivity may be affected due to them, and susceptibility to disease will vary from person to person, and ethnicity to ethnicity. BMI is important, so we should not be overweight. Family history matters. Use of statins also matters. We should use them to control the lipid profile. Energy derived from the dietary fats is important. We should be deriving it from unsaturated rather than saturated fats. Smoking, we should quit it. And then SNPs, unavoidable. Although, yes, we can go for extra-familial marriages and out-of-caste marriages, out-of-ethnicity marriages. So the future prospects he recommended were that maybe a genome-wide association study should be encouraged, including multiple ethnic groups and a population representative sample, that is a larger sample size, to bring out more facts to the public. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Samina, for discussing about the scientific aspect of Professor Arif, taking an example, the highest quoted publication of Professor Arif. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Professor Mangala and all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samina. It is an excellent way you have presented and given a fitting tribute as a mentee of a legendary mentor. I really appreciate the way and style which you have given it, a real fitting to Dr. Arif Siddiqui in other aspects which has not been discussed today.
Thank you, sir. I'm honored to be his mentee. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much for accepting invitations by all the speakers and sharing their thoughts in different manner and different interesting manner during this program, that is the commemoration of late Professor Arif Siddiqui, who was the founder of the South Asian Association of Physiologists. Now it is the turn of our president, Professor Kusal Das, from India.
Dr. Mangala, I just request anyone, just 1 or 2 person, if they want to speak a 2-3 minute on Professor Arif Siddiqui, just to ask. I request any one of you, any one of the guests today in Zoom link, like to say a few words about the legendary Professor Arif Siddiqui, 1 or 2 minutes.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Can you hear me? I am
yes,
Manish.
Yes, Dr. Bajpai, Professor Bajpai, very much welcome here.
Yes, sir. It's my pleasure to join this meeting. And first of all, I wish to thank you all for organizing this. My association with Professor Arif was very long. It's been 20 years. And I first met him in New Zealand. Since that day, he had a great bond with me. And because I am from Lucknow, I am from north of India, and his relatives are also from this part of the world. So we share a different type of bond. I have heard all of you, and you have talked a lot about his academic and professional thing. But I wish to share you some personal things also. I remember, I hope his wife is also listening to us. I remember once his elder daughter was getting married. So I wanted to go and attend the marriage, but due to some constraint, we didn't go. But he used to remember the food of Lucknow. He used to remember the culture of Lucknow. So in that way, as you must be knowing that whenever, and Dr. Mangla has also witnessed that we had a different type of bond during each of the meetings of SAP or IUPS or FOPS. We used to have gel together very well. So that's all. These are the things which are there in my memories. And I was shocked to know that he left us so early. It was not his time. He initiated the SAP movement. He made me come to Colombo, and I was made the first vice president also from this region. And it's good to know that now the SAP is developing under, and I hope that we'll work better and we'll carry forward his work. So it's a good thing that we are continuing his work, and I wish and pray that wherever he is in this world, in this planet, his soul should rest in peace. And whenever we'll meet again, my proposal is that we should start some lecture series or some award in his memory, so that this association can recognize and honor Professor Arif.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Bajpai. Thank you very much for your kind presentation. If anyone, anybody, just one, because we have time shortage, one we can accommodate.
Yeah, okay. So I'm Sharmishta Ghosh. I'm from India, and my association with Prof. Arif goes back to 1999. And I still do not know how he got my email ID when I was working in Nepal. It was just 4 or 5 years into my medical teaching. And he wrote me a mail that whether I can come up with an innovative teaching learning activity in physiology. So we never had PBLs and all those things, no integrated teaching like that in that sense. So I used a case-based tutorial, which has also been published in, if you put my name, Sharmishta Ghosh, very few publications. That is the first one. And I was introduced to Professor Robert Carroll that time only. So Professor Arif had very good sense of humor. Okay, I will just share that one. We met in New Zealand, and in the registration counter, I was standing on this side, he was on the other counter. And in between, there was that separator, those round things, and they put the ribbons. He said, Sharmishta, this is the line of control, because he comes from Pakistan and I come from India. And that time the situation was not at all good, because 1999, when Kargil war struck, I was actually in Pakistan just 2 days before that. So he was instrumental in getting me a travel grant, and I could visit Pakistan. Then when again SAP was supposed to be in Lahore, he said, come over, I'll take care of everything. I said, no, sir, my mother will just die if I go. Just cannot now, please excuse me. 2016, he wrote to me to conduct a workshop. And the way he used to communicate, I never thought that he has never taught me or I have never met him earlier. He was so, very open, and he knew how to actually get people, push people to get the best out of them. So my sincere regards to Madam Shaheen and the other members of the family, my sincere condolence to you. We all have lost a family member. Please know this, and we are all with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharmishta. Thank you, Dr. Sharmishta, for sharing your memory with Professor Arif Siddiqui. It's a really good. And I think that now our time has come to end up. I still request if you want to share anyone for another 2-3 minutes, it will be great, because we want to listen more about Professor Arif.
Professor Das.
Yes.
My name is Faisal, and I don't want to take too much time. I'll just speak for hopefully 1 minute.
No. Please speak. Share your memories.
So I had the honor of working with Arif at Aga Khan University, and I traveled with him to New Zealand and many places. Just a few funny things on the way. I remember some experiences we had. Once that we were traveling to New Zealand, he was actually stopped in Mumbai, in Bombay at that time, and he wasn't allowed to travel because he didn't have a transit visa for Australia. So we were stuck at the airport basically. And in India, they were saying he had to fly back to Pakistan. So both of us thought very quickly. We used a bit of problem-based learning. And we asked that lady in India, wait, can Arif travel to Singapore? She said, fine, he can travel to Singapore. I can't stop him. So we traveled to Singapore together on the same plane. He got off at Singapore. He stayed in my friend's house. I had some friends there. And the next day he got a visa then to travel through Australia to go to New Zealand. Another funny incident, we traveled together to Kobe in 2009, and we were stopped by customs. And it was hilarious because Arif had lots of food, and Bhabi, Mrs. Arif, had sent some food, home-cooked food with him, which I had the pleasure of eating in a few conferences. And I thought, oh my God, the Japanese customs are going to take away his food, because food wasn't allowed in Japan. But because Arif had a special suitcase, the way it was designed, they thought it had some illicit or legal things. Of course, there was nothing there. But the Japanese guy saw the food in these tins, but he just ignored it. And I came out sweating, and I was like, oh, Arif, thank God we got through. And Arif was instrumental in helping me run a conference in Bahrain, one of the first teaching conferences in the Middle East. And I had the opportunity to invite Arif, to invite colleagues from India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and of course the Middle East. So he really helped me. He guided me there. I really can't thank him enough. So some excellent memories I've got, and obviously he'll always be in my prayers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing any excellent and wonderful moments. I think over to Mangala, Dr. Mangala, Secretary General of SAP.
Yes, sir. Shall we give the opportunity to Professor Barbara to?
Yes, of course. I was asking if Madam Barbara Goodman is there, please tell. Please request.
Professor Barbara?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, I just put something in the chat because we have several people on the editorial board for Advances in Physiology Education that Arif recommended, and he recommended Fabian Lim from Singapore. And when his position was open after he died on the editorial board as an associate editor, I invited Fabian to join. So we still want all of you to send papers to Advances in Physiology Education. And I've recently added Christina Karatsaferis, if you remember her from Greece, from the IUPS Teaching Workshop Group, as an associate editor. And we would love to have more papers about global physiology education.
Thank you, Professor Barbara.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So it is nice to meeting all of you on the online platform. Professor Faisal, Professor Manish Bajpai, and Professor Sharmista, Professor Barbara Goodman. So thank you so much for joining this program that we organized to commemorate our founder, Professor Arif Siddiqui. So it is time to hand over the platform to Professor Kusal Das, the President of the South Asian Association of Physiologists. Sir, over to you.
Excuse me.
Hello. Yeah.
Excuse me, Professor Kusal Das. I can see Professor Myling here. She has been closely associated with Professor Arif Siddiqui. I can see Myling here.
Yeah, just I request her. Just request.
If she's there. Myling, can you come up?
It's very nice to hear everyone's voice. It reminded me at the very beginning when I met Arif 2009 in Kobe, Kyoto. So, and then I went to Lahore, and he was very warm, welcome me and to join the conference. That really helped me to have a strong touch connected to SAP. So today I feel so many familiar names and faces. I feel Arif did a very great contribution to link a different region together to help people to meet each other. So really thank you to have the event so I can really hear all his story again and remind myself what he has done for the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Myling. Thank you very much.
Sir, the platform is over to you.
Okay. So, good evening. Thank you very much, first, all of you, that you are all here today to commemorate the legendary Professor Arif Siddiqui, the occasion of his first birth anniversary, although it is over on 15th May, but we are conducting today in convenience with all aspects. It is very difficult to say any words about Professor Arif Siddiqui by personally as a Dr. Kushal Das. But I'm very much happy today that all of you have shared beautiful moments, beautiful memories, including lastly by his mentee, Dr. Shamina, with research that gives a full-fledged idea and concept of who was Professor Arif Siddiqui. From his family, which started with Professor Shaheen Ma'am, with the mentee, Professor H.R. Ahmed, to all his colleagues for long journey in different aspects and fields you shared. We are really honored, and on behalf of the South Asian Association of Physiologists, I'm really thankful to all of you for your beautiful memory which you have shared with all of us. This memory will remain forever. This is in the YouTube. It will be in live, and although it is in personally from my university to me personally, but I will give the authority to South Asian Association of Physiologists to share the link in their websites. So officially I will send a letter to give an authority to they can upload it in any of the societies or any of the societies under the SAP. They can upload it for anybody who can listen to today's tribute at any number of times. And lastly, because I don't want to take too much of time, this is not only the president's remark, but also the vote of thanks to all of you. So it's really the thing which you have understood very clearly on Professor Arif Siddiqui. He was an extraordinary man. I don't think that any one of us have 30% of individual capacity. What Professor Arif Siddiqui did, we do it in our lifetime. First of all, when I gone deeply with Professor Arif Siddiqui in some of the very critical issues of the physiological aspects for teaching, learning, and research in this part of South Asian countries, I understood one thing, that he is far ahead of me in context of his knowledge, experience, understanding, and his versatility. And there is also one advantage to me, because I was almost like his younger brother. So I have an advantage to ask like my mentor. So I asked him many questions just like as a mentee, not only as a colleague. And he understood that my difficulties and my advantage both. He actually shared both the way to me as a mentee, and he as a mentor, along with a colleague, where some serious issues were being discussed. He is the first time I saw a person who is actually man without border. I don't think that Professor Arif Siddiqui will be considered anybody as a citizen of Pakistan. He may be considered easily as citizen of India or citizen of Sri Lanka or Nepal, Bangladesh. There is no problem for him. Even I will sure that even the Rob and Bob will be allowed him to be a citizen of US. He is such a person that I don't think any border of a geography which is man-made. Nature has not created, God has not created any boundary for us or human being, we have created. And Arif Siddiqui is an example that where no boundaries are being actually required for become a good human being. So to me, he is not only my mentor, ideologue and a person of an integrity and a great physiologist and a friend, and also an elder brother. But to me, he is a great humanist, a philosopher of excellence, man ahead of his time and beyond the border of his brotherhood. And definitely he will be remembered forever with all of us, a man who has no border, no nationality, nothing. He is in the heart of South Asian Association of Physiologists, all the family members. So it is a great honor that I have taken the responsibility, or I was being given an opportunity to serve immediately after Professor Arif Siddiqui of sad demise, interim president Professor Muhammad Aslam sir, and I was given. It was a challenge for me actually to take the legacy, the question what Dr. H.R. Ahmed sir has actually asked, where the legacy goes of Professor Arif Siddiqui, that is more important than what individually we think of him and we actually like to share with him. Is it not easy? It is not easy to carry the legacy of Professor Arif Siddiqui. He is concerned with this country, specifically these South Asian countries were quite different. When I shared with him, I clearly understood. We shared. This is not like in European Union where the countries of without the border, without the passport, they can go in there. Here we can't do it. None of our countries in the South Asian associations, without visa, we can move any other. Although we have a blood relationship, we had a food relationship, we had a cultural relationship, we have a traditional relationship, but we cannot go without the visa, like in European Union. And we are going to assemble the physiologists in this zone to one platform where we'll speak in one term, that is the physiologist and physiological benefit. So this is not an easy task. And I know very well how Professor Arif Siddiqui actually thought of it. And I have told him, it is a very difficult challenge for us. You can do the same thing in other part of Asia, but to these countries that are so sensitive with each other, it is not easy. But a man named Arif Siddiqui, unbelievable that once upon a time he walked on this planet, he thought in otherwise. Yes, it can be done. And he has given us the adequate confidence and support and his leadership. He is a giant. He is a not, and we are all actually can consider a pygmy in front of his gigantic leadership. He given that leadership in academics and humanities and also the different type of support. We cannot forget Professor Arif Siddiqui and his legacy. Now the challenge for us at the moment, the follow up the legacy. I think the best tribute to Professor Arif Siddiqui should be follow the legacy of Arif Siddiqui in the field of education and research. He was equally concerned of both these two in a very serious way. We discussed with each other. He was also taught taught in Glasgow University. I was taught in University of Leeds. So we have a very close understanding that the physiology being taught in these two countries, different countries, the Western countries, and our Indian perspective with Pakistan perspective, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal will be quite different. How to assemble? We are far behind. We have a lot of innovation funding. If you consider of 0.8 or 9% of the GDP the Western countries, they cannot be below the 2.5. So that is the difference between the physiological sciences understanding to going to the education to research to compete with the other countries where research growth and other given such a high GDP and we are having such a low. How to do it? So he thought of the collaboration. Here he comes to the collaboration and communication. He was an extraordinary communication skill he was having. He made use of it to have a collaboration. He taught us that how to get the ideas and thoughts to be shared by others. Literally of late, he was not well. That's the reason it has not materialized. He was eager to know, and he repeatedly told me personally, and many of my colleagues here today, they know very well. He told that please share your knowledge, exchange the students, exchange the professors, and make the more scholars to have the research or thesis dissertation understanding, at least that much sharing, and that will help the physiologists to go to the beyond the borders, and they will think of cross-border ideas and ideology of the subject itself in the field of medicine. So that's the way the vision we have to do it. Now, our request to all my sub-colleagues and also my all distinguished colleagues from other part of the countries, please help South Asian Association of Physiologists. We are having the quality faculties, quality students, we have the merit, we may not be having that support for the grant, collaborations, training, mentorship. I request that like other part of the globe and the great leaders like Bud Bulban or Rob Carroll, like persons must or this you could please help us, and that's the reason SAF has this time under the ideas of Professor Arif Siddiqui established the adjunct advisorships. We have made the 3 adjunct advisors, which Dr. Dr. I think Savitri has explained to all of us. So with this, I like to conclude now because we have a challenge now. Professor Arif Siddiqui is not with us, but his legacy will be with us, and real tributes should be always going on. And to Professor Arif Siddiqui, the legend and founder of SAP, if we really do what he wished us to do, and that's not the easy job in the COVID pandemic situation, it becomes tougher. So we have to work more hard to make ourselves more actually the viable to the fit at the moment in the world of science and promote the physiological science in the global arena, what is his vision. And I'm sure that my all colleagues will definitely do with the blessings of Arif Siddiqui, blessing of his family members, Professor Madam Shaheen, and all of my colleagues in SAP, my respected seniors, my mentors in this SAP, and my all juniors and my beloved friends. I wish that all of us will fulfill the dream of Professor Arif Siddiqui very soon. So thank you very much once again. My great thanks to all of you. I think the time has come. Now we should conclude. I request Dr. Mangala to conclude. And before conclusion, I must give thanks to my son, Dr. Shayandip, because who is actually monitoring all the job, because I'm totally zero in understanding of the electronic devices to operate and all. So he's helping me. Instead of part of his busy schedule, he took the charge. And so thank you very much. Over to Mangala. Thank you. All the best to all of you. We should keep alive Arif Siddiqui with us, with his work to follow up. Thank you.
I have moved 3 countries, but this book moves with me. Okay. So that's how Prof. Arif is with me always.
Thank you very much, sir, for your concluding remarks, right? And once again, thank you, Madam Shahina, for joining with us, with the other family members. And also thank you for accepting our invitation and the speakers explaining about their experiences. And Professor Barbara, thank you very much for joining. In your side, it should be the morning. So thank you very much. And the participants and colleagues of Professor Arif, friends, thank you so much. And it's a wonderful session, and because of your contributions. Thank you once again. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.